Hello IT Pros and welcome back to my IT workshop. This is Alvin, and in this video I'm going to do something I said I was going to do like some weeks ago. We're going to write a script for using Python, of course, and the NetMicro library to get information, to pull commands from a switch, and we're going to save for multiple switches. In this case I'm going to use 2, but I have tested in like 8 switches at the same time. It also works for routers. I would say for most Cisco devices, but I only tested it in routers and switches. Okay, so for that end I have this this is the script we have used some weeks ago. This is to retrieve information from a switch. So we're going to execute commands, we're going to send commands to the switch, and the result we're going to save it in a TXT. All right, so we're going to modify this a little. So before that, this is my IT workshop, this is my channel, and I'm not going to be explaining everything because I have explained how to install the NetMicro library or Python and how the variables work. So that part I'm not going to explain it in this video. That part is explained here. If you're interested, the link for this video is in the description below. All right. And also I have many videos about Python oriented to networking. So if you're interested in that, you can click on the top right of this screen for the playlist. So now we have this. I have just copy pasted from the original, from my original script from some weeks ago, and we're going to modify this. All right. So this is for the NetMicro library, and this part is the one that allows us to actually connect to the switch using SSH. So again, this part I'm not going to explain it. I'm going to modify it, and we will continue. So this part technically I don't need it very much. I don't need it. And this part over here, I noticed that we haven't, I coded, but we haven't used it in the last video. So what this part is doing is, you don't really need it, but maybe. All this code, all this function is retrieving from the computer you're running this from the username. For example, I have a CMD here, and if I type who am I, is going to give me the name of the computer. In this case, this computer is called this computer. Yes, very original. And the username is Alvin, which is me. All right. So in a corporate environment, in a company, this is most likely the same username you use for Windows or for Linux is going to be the same user you are going to use to log in to different devices in the company. In this case, it's Cisco, but most likely you are going to use the same credentials. Normally, because you are using in a company environment, you have what's called radio server to allow you to do that, right? But just in case, so we're going to use it in this video. So I'm going to leave it there. Then we don't really need this, and all this part is what allows us to connect to the switch or router using SSH. So now I'm going to start. The first thing I'm going to do, I forgot, I have 2 switches now. I'm going to ping 10, what am I doing? 192.168.1.110. So I have ping with this, and the other switch, the one I just got, is 111. All right. So as you can see, I have ping, and now I'm going to connect to one of these switches. I'm going to start with 1010. So I have that, and I'm going to type SSH, and we are going to be able to do it. Password Academy 45 exclamation. This is my local. My 2 switches belong to me. So this is not a network or something, and I am giving away the username and password. If you hear some spinning or some fans, it's because the switches are really close to me, so I'm sorry for that. So enable, as you can see, this switch is called my IT workshop number 1. We have worked with this switch in many other videos, and the password is educate45 exclamation. So I can show, for example, the version of the switch, and I can check everything that I might like. So I'm going to connect now to the other switch, SSH 192.168.1.111. So this is the new one. Academy 45 exclamation and it's the same password, educate. So you can see it there. So this one is called my IT workshop switch number 2. So show IP interface brief, for example, and it's going to show me all that. So I'm just showing you that this is another switch, and this one over here is the interface gigabit 48 that is connected. This is a trunk port that is connected to switch number 1. So that's why they are connected. That's how they are connected. So now we are going to continue scripting. So I'm going to create this variable list of switches. So what is going to happen is I'm going to ask the client to tell me how many switches are you going to be working with today. Okay, so the next variable is going to be number of switches, and this one is going to be an input, and it's going to be how many switches, two, like that. So this list of switches is going to be it is an empty list, and I'm going to store the number of how many switches the client is going to work with this time, right? So I have this, and since this is going to be an integer, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 100. I don't know. I know it's not going to be a string, so I'm going to save it as an integer. All right, so we don't have problems later. Then we're going to do a for switch. This is a variable in range from 1, range 1 to this variable number of switches plus 1. Why plus 1? Because if you know Python and you use the range function, is going to grab the first one and the last one minus 1. So in the case of we have 2 switches, like I mentioned, we're going to use 1 and 2, and if I leave it like this, it's going to use only number 1. If you have 10 switches, you would end up with 9. So that's why we're adding number 1. All right. So the next step is going to be, well, we have this for, and another variable. I'm going to create it. It's called ask, and again input. And here I'm going to ask enter switch number space, and I'm going to concatenate it. I'm going to make it string with switch. So I have it like that. It's not this one, it's like this. So I have it like that. So what am I doing here? So for every switch in the range, which are going to be 2, we know that, the computer is going to ask, well, the script is going to ask, input enter switch number, and here is going to show 1 or 2. If you have 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right, and the reason I'm putting it and turning it into a string is because in other videos I have an error about this, because you cannot concatenate a string, which is this one, with an integer. So instead of having that error, I just decided, okay, we're going to turn it into a string to this one. All right, so that's pretty much. And what we're going to do with that information is we're going to add it to this empty list. So list of switches, append, and we're going to add that information, ask. So what I'm doing is every time I put something here, the name of the switch or the IP address. In this case, we're going to use IP addresses for the switches because I don't have a DNS server. Therefore, I cannot put DNS names. It's not going to work. I just tested it and it doesn't work. So the IP address are going to be the way to go. But if in a corporate environment, of course, you can use the switch name. That way it's easier to recognize instead of remembering switches IP addresses, especially if you have 10, 20 or something. So now I'm going to populate with every switch IP address is going to be added to this empty list. All right. Then what we're going to do, we leave this as it is. We don't really need it. And oh, we have more questions to ask, of course. How did I forget? So I'm going to have the user input, which is going to ask the client for what username are you going to use to log into this switch or router. So what's the username? What's the username? Space. And we have two other questions. So what's the password? What's the password? And the variable is going to be pass. Now for these switches I have at home, I have two different passwords. The password for the SSH and the password when you type enable, so you can make configurations and all that. So for that I'm going to call it an enable pass, okay? And it's going to be technically the same. What's the enable password, right? So in a corporate environment, both the password and the enable password most likely are going to be the same, which is in any case your password that you use to log into Windows or Linux, because you have a radio server. So, but in my case, I don't have that. So input, we have this, and well, this is going to stay as it is. And now this is the part where you actually connect to the router or switch. This is what allows us, besides the NetMicro library, of course, to connect using SSH to a Cisco device. All right. Of course, the Cisco switch needs, or router needs to be configured in advance for SSH. Right. So we have this, and the only things we have to change here, this is from the last, from a few videos ago. Since we are asking for variables, we have to change this. So host is going to be, what's going to be the host? Well, which one of my variable is going to be switches? A list of switches. Oh, I need a 4, of course. I'm forgetting about that. Local computer username, that's not very important. Well, actually it is. Switches in list of switches. Here's my list of switches over here. So once I have this, the names of the switches that we were asking over here, and now it's saved in the list of switches, we are going to do all this. So since we are inside of a switch of a 4, we have to do this like that. That way it's not going to give us an error, and these guys over here need to be like that. Okay, so in this case this is going to be the host. So the host is going to be the switch, or switches in this case. So we are just going to paste this variable over here, because before we only have one switch, so we didn't need that. So the username is going to be user over here. So we're going to replace this. The password, as you can imagine, is going to be password. This is the SSH password. The Cisco iOS doesn't change for us. Then the secret, or the enable password, is going to be this one. Like I said, in most cases, these two passwords are going to be the same. So you are going just to copy pass over here, and it should work with no problems. So we have that now, right? Enable pass. Oh, of course, this has to. Oh, no, those are variables. What am I doing? So we have this. This part, this is a variable. This is a variable. This part, for example, is a NetMicro library command, so that you cannot change that. And this part also, right? So again, that's explained in the video that is in the video description below. Now, what we are going to do next is we are going to create a list of commands. So this list of commands are going to be the commands that we're going to issue to these 2 switches or 10 switches, or how many you may have. So I don't know what we can do. For example, let me open up this one and kick me out. Okay, this one is still working. So let's say show running config, pipe include host name. So as you can see, it's returning the host name. So we can use this one. So we should receive different host names for different switches. Of course, these commands can be anything that you may like. Doesn't make a difference, but I'm just testing those. So the other command I want to run could be show version. So if we run this, of course, I showed you a few seconds ago, right? Show version is going to give us this, like that. And the next command is going to be show VLAN brief. I'm just testing. I'm just going to run 3 commands, and we have this. So these 2 switches are not fully configured. I mean, they have a few VLANs, the SSH, the username and password, blah, 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 but they are not for production. They are for my home. I play with these switches. So they don't have really complex configurations. So one thing that I know is that this switch number 2 has VLAN 20, but switch number 1 doesn't have VLAN 20. So those are one of the differences. Okay, so we're going to check that later, but it's just the few differences. And like I said, show VLAN brief. So with that, we are done with the commands. Like I said, you can have as many commands as you may need. Now we are inside of a for, and we're going to do another for. For command, you can call it anything that you may like, it's just a variable, in list of commands. So for every command in this list, what are we going to do? We're going to create a variable output, and now we're going to actually execute the commands. We're going to send the commands to be executed in the switch or in the switches using the NetMicro library. So for that, we need this guy, this variable over here. And now we are going to start adding the commands for Netmiko. So it's send that, no, it's not that, it's command. And here is this command. I know it is kind of confusing, but this part over here, it's how the Netmiko, it's a command inside the Netmiko library. So we cannot do anything about that. You need this variable, which is this one, we have created it. And this send command is for Netmiko, and this command that looks the same as this one, but that they are not related, is the variable from here. That can be anything. Can be I, can be commands, can be anything that you may like. It's just commands make sense for me. All right, so we are there. So this is the output. By the way, this part is not needed, all this line. It's just to print it in the Netmiko, what this one is called, in the Python shell, but it's not really needed. I'm going to show you in a few more minutes. So after that, we are going to save the configurations we're going to send to the switches in a TXT file that is going to be saved here in this folder. So this folder, as you can see, it's empty, but then it's going to be populated with files, with one file actually. So this is the path, and we're going to just copy paste it, and a few more spaces. And now we're going to say with open, and this is how Python allow us to open a file in the Windows computer. So I'm going to add the path, which is this long for this folder over here. But like I said in the last video, we didn't use this one. So now we're going to use it. So this one is return back the username for this computer. In this case, Salvendrill doesn't make much difference, but I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to add, oh, we have to do this, plus, like that. Am I doing something wrong? Local computer, local username on computer. Like, let me make this a little bigger. And this guy, why is like this? Oh, something I forgot as well. Every time you have one of these, you have to double it, because Python is going to interpret it as something else if you don't do it that way. That's for Windows. For Linux, I don't think it's that way. I don't remember. So we have that Python txt, of course I need the name. I'm going to just call it config.txt. So this config.txt doesn't exist here, so it's going to be created once we run the software, the script. So that's pretty much. Oh, this is not correct. Why I cannot see it? So let's make it as big as possible. So as you can see, the icons are a little bigger. I did that on purpose so you can see it better what I do. So with open, I need to close this. Well, so and now I'm going to write. Oh no, I'm missing something. I am missing something. Which is this one. This is just how Python does it, and as f. This is how you do it. I mean, this part it's not something I'm making this up. This is how Python allow you to write a file. So this is all Python. By the way, this f can be anything. It can be b, can be c, can be n. Doesn't make a difference. So I'm sorry. Write. So I want some space. I want to start typing in the next line. I'm sorry. So f write, and now switches. Yeah, that's good. Plus this symbol, the pound symbol, and plus the command. Then we close this, and we have to keep on typing. So I'm going to do this again, more spaces, and you're going to see how it looks. So here, what we're going to do is technically we need all this, but I'm going to f write, and we have to copy all these commands over here. So I'm going to explain what it does in a few more seconds. And now I'm going to copy this one more time over here. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to open in all this location, and now I'm using the result from this command over here, which is who am I? And desktop Python txt, that's this folder, and config txt. I'm going to create that folder, that txt file. And now I have a space. I'm going to print a space, and then I'm going to save switches, which is what switch we are, one of the two we have, or can be 10, can be 100, and we're going to add like this. So the reason I'm doing this is not really necessary, but I want it to look like this, like you see here. But of course, like I said, I don't have a DNS server, so you're going to see the IP address here. Okay, for me that looks more readable, and the command we're going to execute. Then another space, and here is I'm sending the actual command. Well, I'm not sending it, I'm saving the result for that command. All right, the same that we have over here. It's exactly the same. So I'm going to save that command, and not the command. I'm going to save the result of that command. All right. So now that's after inside the for, and now I'm going to open it again, all this one more time outside this for, and the reason for that is going to be exactly the same. And here I'm going to write another not space, and here this is after it finishes all the commands that it has to run in this for. So all the commands it has to run, it comes out, yeah, it doesn't have anymore, so it's going to start the next switch. So before it starts the next switch, I want this to do something. I want it to print kind of the same, like this. So for example, every time you execute a command, let's say show ver, for example, it's going to print this again, right? So I want it to look like that. So that's the only, again, it's not necessary, but for me it looks a little better. So here I'm going to print this, but many times, and I learned this a few hours ago maybe. So where is multiplication for 3? So this is going to print 3 spaces. So instead of typing this 3 times, I can do this. So that's pretty cool. And after that, I want to put, I want to show a command. So this one is going to be like this, and it's going to be end of this device. So we know there is a separation, end of this device. And I'm going to repeat this a few times, like this, and like this. And I want many of these as well, so I'm going to multiply it by, I don't know, 4, for example. So we have this. Next, more spaces, of course, more spaces. And at the end of everything, I wanted to print completed. So this is not going to be in the file, of course, it's outside. So completed. And that's it. So I believe I might have mistakes. So let's see what happens. So I save it. We're going to run the module, and it opens it in my other screen or monitor. So where is this? Where is this? Where are you? Where did you go? Okay, run it again. Oh, here you are. So how many switches? 2. Switch number 1, 192.168.1. Well, I don't like this. It's a little. I want a space there. So okay, but 192.168.1.110. What's the number 2? It's technically the same plus 1 number. Bank, what's the username? Alvendril, which is me. What's the password? Academy45 exclamation. And what's the enable password? Which is educate45. And let's see if I have an error. So I suppose, oh, I didn't type print. I didn't type print for this, so it's not going to show anything in the CLI, in the Python, what's called, in the Python shell. So it should print completed. Yeah, it's printing completed. So as you can see here, this folder now has something. So a file has been generated. So I'm going to open it. As you can see here, like I said, the IP address, it should be the name of the switch, but I don't have a DNS server, and the command that is running. So as you can see, this is what it's printing. And then show version. Show version is very long until here. And now show VLAN brief for switch 110. So all this is printing it here. And as you can see here, show VLAN brief. It's only showing us this. Like I said, VLAN switch 110 or switch number 1, my IT workshop number 1, doesn't have VLAN 20. So you don't see it here. So then after it finishes it prints this, which I like. And then this message like end of device, end of device, end of device, which is pretty cool. So you know it's done with that switch or device. So now it starts switch 111. So running config, you have the same host name, no problems here. So now we run show version, which is very long. And finally, I'm going to make it a little smaller, even a little smaller. So finally, show VLAN brief. And as you can see here, we can see VLAN 20, which we don't have in switch number 1. And at the end of this device, that tell us, hey, we have finished. And the completed is not being printed because that's not inside. We are not saving that to the TXT file. So that's pretty cool. So that's how it works. So now you might be I'm going to close this. You can tell me, hey, I want to save this, but in separate folders. Well, not folders, files. So I don't want everything. Let's say you have 20 switches or 20 routers, and you don't want to save all of them in one file. All right. So what you would have to do, it's over here, config _, you can call it anything that you may like. I'm going to close, end this, add, and what would be the variable? The variable would be switches, because we are looping through the switches, plus txt plus the txt file. So I'm going to copy exactly the same for over here. Oh, I need this one. And what did I copy? Yeah, I think it's okay. So that's going to create different files. So as you can see here, we only have one file. And let's change this because show version is very long. Show environment. So this command is to check the health of the fan and the temperature and the power supply. So show environ. What is no env? There's something with this. Show environment. Odd. Maybe I'm making up a command. So what's another command that could be interesting? Show bill and brief, show IP addresses. Oh, show CDP neighbors. So we are going to replace this one. Show CDP neighbors. We're going to change it for this command. Show CDP neighbors. So we're going to have that instead of show version. So now we're going to save it and we're going to run it again. Run module, it's in the other screen, and we have to type everything again. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this. So we're going to go up and we need a little more space. So username and password. Where is this? Oh, here. So we save it again and run. So it's in my other monitor. Come on, why don't you come? It doesn't allow me to drag it, so I'm going to run it again. So run. Now nothing is running, guys. It's stuck. What the heck? Why is not doing it? Okay, so let's just kill the where's Python? Python. Where's Python? Why are you not working? Alright. So I'm going to open Python again. So open where is version 3, which is here. So we're going to run it again. I don't know what happened, I don't know what it got stuck, but we're going to run it again. Okay, it's the same thing. We changed this the last time, so we're going to run it. Run module. How many switches? 2. 192, 168. Now we have a space. 110. 192, 168.111. Username Alvendrill. Password Academy45. And what's the enable password? Educate45. So one thing, I didn't find a way to to hide these two in plain text. I don't know. I checked many other libraries, but I'm not able to do it. So I don't know what to do about that. If you know a solution, let me know in the comment section below, so I can learn something as well. So as you can see here, it's doing something. Is running the commands, and again it's not printing it, so we can print it in a few more seconds. So we're going to wait until this finishes and we're going to see what happens. So it should be running all the commands and it's done. So let's open this, and as you can see, I have 2 extra files. It's the config file for 110, and it's only doing it for that switch. So 110, show the host name, then we have the show bill and brief, and where is the show CDP neighbors. So that's pretty cool. So we can see switch number 2 over here in interface 48 and 111. So this one, it's only for switch number 2. As you can see here, so CDP neighbors, the host name, and we can see switch number 1 in port 100, in port 47. So that's pretty cool. So maybe we don't really need this, right? Because it's only doing it once. We don't need that separation. So as you can see, it's creating many files. Well, not many, it's creating files. So that's how you would do it if you want to separate TXT file. And this is, where is the part I'm looking for? Connect to device. Oh, here's the output. This is the part that is not printing. So what we can do here, it's, well, printed it. So we have this, and we can print output. Print output over here. Bam. And we're going to run it one last time. So we can, it's going to rewrite, it's going to add it, so we can just delete this. So we delete this, it's blank, and we're going to run it one more time. So how many switches? 2, 192, 168.1.110. Number 2 is going to be kind of the same with a little variation. 11 Alvendril Academy 45 and educate 45. So let's see what happens. Now it should print it in the CLI. Let's see. As you can see here, it's doing it. So you have all that. So that's the host name. I'm going to make it a little smaller because it's not fitting in the screen. So total CDP. So it's completed. So now you can see it printed here. Like I said, that's not really needed. So these two commands are, let's say, optional. It's just for you to check if it works. And again, it has created 2 files, like as you can see here. So that's what I wanted to show in this video, guys. But maybe you want to shut down many Windows computers. Maybe you're in a Windows domain. I have this video for that. Or also you can check these other videos that might help you to do more Python projects. So thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe. If you have any other comment or question, leave it in the comment section below. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.